Hello and welcome to episode 1. I'm your host, Jordan. And in this podcast, I watch the pilot episode of TV shows on your favorite streaming networks and help you save time and answer the question, should I binge that? On today's episode, I'll be discussing The Awesomes. The Awesomes is a Hulu original made by Seth Meyers, and the audience is for the audience it's targeting is a more adult audience. It's not necessarily any overt adult humor or anything in the first episode, but it's definitely not a children's cartoon, comic book movie or TV show. It's more of a adult kind of a humor, so the kids might not understand some of the humor or might not appreciate it as much. In the first episode, we're introduced to our main character, Proc. He is this big hero. He's fighting the big bad guy in a big destroyed city, and then it flashes back to before all of his big hero-ness, and we find out that he really doesn't have any superpower besides the fact that he can pause time, and he's real weak and thin, and he doesn't have just able to pause time. And his dad is Mr. Awesome. He's the founder of the Awesomes, and he's the greatest superhero known to man, and he's retiring. He's retiring from being a superhero. He's retiring from being the leader of the Awesomes. He's 90 years old, but he looks great. And he's going to pass on the leadership of the Awesomes to a very special hero. And Proc thinks it's him. He's like, oh, my dad's talking me up. And he passes it on to Mr. Perfect. Mr. Perfect rejects it because he's perfect, and he thinks that it would be a failure if he ran the Awesomes, because he's not an awesome, he's a perfect, so he can't run the team, so he declines. So then they're going to just disband the team, so there's going to be no more Awesomes. So Proc pauses time and has a little monologue with himself, and he's like, I can do this, I'm gonna stand up and I'm gonna take over. So he jumps over there and takes over, and says, I'm gonna be the leader of the team. And Mr. Awesome flies away with Proc up in the air and has a little talk with him, and is like, look, you have no powers except that pause time thing, which you can't do anymore, and the doctor said it'll kill you. So of course Proc pauses time there and talks himself up again, and then when he unpauses time, his nose is bleeding, so whatever he uses to pause the time, it's gonna kill him. And Mr. Awesome finally agrees, yeah, fine, you can run the team. So they announce that Proc is going to be the new head of the Awesomes, and everybody leaves. No one wants to be on the team except Muscle Man, Proc's childhood friend. So they go back to the Awesome Tower, and all the employees are gone, and the government's repossessing everything, because the government doesn't want to pay for a team that doesn't exist anymore. So Proc talks to one of the government agents there and is like, look, can we, is there any way we can work this deal out? And they're like, you know what, you can, if you can make a team, then we'll fund you again. So he's like, all right, do we have any employees? We need some extra employees. And they give him one employee. She was the only one who didn't leave, because she drew the short straw. She wanted to leave, but she couldn't. Her name's Concierge, and she helps them find some team members by digging in the rejected applicants. These superheroes had already applied to be members of the Awesomes, but they were rejected for one reason or another. So they start going through the files and find out, that there's some level 6 heroes and level 7 heroes. They're real. In this world, I guess if you're above level 5, then you're a really good hero. So they have some really good powers in here. But they were rejected for some reason, so they go find out, and each of them has their own little issues. There was, the speedster. He's basically just got too much going on in his head, so he can't focus very well. And then they had a giant, strong, super strong sumo wrestler kind of a guy, but he's actually just like a 10-year-old kid, and he turns into the giant super sumo wrestler, and so it's a super strong sumo wrestler with a kid's brain, so it's not necessarily going to make the best decisions. Then there's a guy who's got a magic crystal that anything that he thinks of he can create, but he has mother issues, so anything he thinks of has his mom's face and voice, and she nags at him. And then they're another superhero who used to be on the Awesome. She was one of the original Awesome members, but she was retired because she was really old, and then she got in a battle with one of her arch nemesis at the nursing home, and then somehow they both turned young again. So she's young on the outside, old on the inside, and she's going to be one of the heroes as well. So each have their own issues, but they also have really good powers. And the whole time they're collecting the team and assembling the team, there's also a villain in the background who's escaping from jail once he sees that Mr. Awesome is retiring, by using his mind control. He has mind control. He just has to, look at people, and he can control their mind. And he's assembling a team and trying to regain power in the background. And the episode ends after they've assembled most of their team. And that was the first episode. The concept of this show, superheroes have been around for years and years. Comic books, TV shows, movies, and they're really popular now. So no, it's not a very original concept. But they stuck with the concept well. They stuck with the superhero flow well. They didn't go do anything out of the ordinary for that. And the plot was pretty easy to follow and typical. No one respects this hero. I got to assemble a team so then I can save the world, so then people can respect me. The actors and the cast, I think it was cast pretty well. It's all really mostly Saturday Night Live alums. Seth Meyers, he created it, and he has a voice in the show, and Bill Hader's in the show, and Taron Killam, and they're all either still on Saturday Night Live or former Saturday Night Live members. So they're good, they're funny, and they do a good job of keeping their characters acting like they should. And I really can't think of anybody else I'd want to see as the roles. I feel like Saturday Night Live alums are pretty good for the role because not a lot of them really go out to do bigger things, so you don't really have to worry about them not being available to record. And the characters, I didn't really find them too engaging, and I didn't really want to know too much more about Proc. The only thing I really cared about was his power. Why is it going to kill him? I was really curious about that. I wonder what he's using, and I wonder if he's got more powers hidden somewhere, and what's the utility of his time-stopping power, because he didn't use it to attack anybody or anything. Everybody just kind of paused and faded, they were kind of a bluish-grayish kind of a color in the background, and he was still colorful and able to move around, but also everything kind of ticked and vibrated around him. So I wondered what the utility of his power is, if he can actually do any damage to people while he's in there, or if he's just pausing time, and then when he resumes it, no one knows anything about it. So that's really all I want to know more about him. And my predictions for where this show is going. It seems like, well, they showed, where the show's going at the beginning. They're going to have some big battle with that criminal, but I think they're going to be down on their luck and beaten up and almost on the verge of losing, and then somehow their quirks are going to save the day. And, where Mr. Perfect, he doesn't have any quirks. He's perfect. He won't be able to save the day for some reason because they need a quirk. They need, a magician guy who can summon anything with mother issues that just is going to happen to work out for them somehow. That's my predictions. And now I will reveal if I think it's a winner or a loser. It's a loser. I didn't really find it that funny for being all Saturday Night Live people, and Seth Meyers and Lorne Michaels worked on it. I didn't really find it that funny. And I didn't really care too much about the characters. Like I said, the only thing I cared really about was to know more about his powers. Didn't really want to watch the show, so I recommend skipping it. If you want to watch it, there's short episodes, and there's only 3 seasons out. I think there's 30 episodes total on Hulu, so it's not going to be like a horrible binge watch and waste of time, but there's just better things to binge watch, so I would definitely avoid it. That's all for this week. I apologize for being a little late. I started a new job and just had a hectic week, but I wanted to get this out this weekend, and I'm glad I could do it today. Thank you all so much for listening. Make sure to share the episode. I don't do any advertisements, so you guys sharing is the only way I can get more listeners and more out there. And until next time, you can follow me on Twitter. And message me out there. I'm at episode 1 pod. That's WON. If you have any suggestions on any shows you want me to do, let me know. And you can find the podcast on Podbean, Google Play, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for episode 1. And have a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night. Thank you.